I welcome, personally welcome, officially welcome everybody who's logged into this webcast again. My name is Ashish Kaul. I work for SHRM as a director for advisory and knowledge services. We're going to be talking about this amazing topic of personalized rewards, building a culture of appreciation to drive employee happiness and retention. Something which is very contemporary and something which has been on our mind for a long time because with the uh, technology and economics and the changing workforce and the changing workplaces, this is becoming a topic that has got a lot of people interested in. We are happy and very proud to be partnering with with AdvantageClub.ai, who helped us to put this webcast together. This is going to be one of the first in the series of webcasts around the topic that we're going to talk about. So at the end of the whole webcast, I'm also going to talk to you. We're going to do another one on 5th of February. So if you're not signed up till now on that one, so you should do that. We would be sharing the links on the chat towards the end. So without any further ado, let me introduce you all to this amazing set of speakers of the panel that we have. So in no particular order, I have Vinisha, who is an AVP and a cluster HR head at Hexaware. Vinisha, welcome to the webcast, and looking forward to listening. The kind of work that you're doing in your organization, and what are your thoughts around this topic. Joining Vinisha is Anupama. Anupama is VP People Solutions India, SEA and ANZ Concentrix, one of the organizations that has been one of the big brands when you go towards a DLF, in Gurgaon. Massive recruitment of people and been a knowledge organization for a long time. Welcome, Anupama. Thank you so much for joining us and looking forward, to listening from you. Then I have my friend Alok. Alok, welcome. Alok is a director on a Total Rewards, Global Delivery Centers, and Global Rewards COE at DXC Technologies. One of the critical organizations that represent the Indian IT scene. Alok has been a long time person at the organization and has extensive knowledge about Total Rewards. Welcome, Alok. Then we have Smiti. Smiti is the co-founder and chief operating officer from AdvantageClub.ai. I can actually spend the next half an hour talking about the achievements that she has had right from her college days at UCLA and founding this organization, around her masters and all the amazing work that they have been, doing. But you can actually find it out more on a LinkedIn profile, even if you do a Google on her. I will, in the course of time, be sharing the LinkedIn links for all of the speakers if you want to connect one-on-one or offline with any one of them. So thank you so much for joining us, Smiti, and we will actually be looking up to you to tell us, because your organization and you work a lot on the topic. So we will actually be, holding you accountable for us to tell what's happening new and what's the latest happening around this one. So, as I start, I would want my speakers to probably give us their first top of the mind, when you heard about this topic, what came to your mind, when you heard this. So, probably like on my screen, Anupama shows up the first. So, Anupama, I'm going to start off with you. So, if you could tell us what came to your mind, or what is that one big insight that you have around personalized rewards, and how do they help us build a culture of appreciation and the retention? And I like the word, employee happiness, because I think the world has actually, at least the Indian work culture, has moved beyond retention to a happiness. I have a lot of youngsters within my organization, who talk a very different language when I was their age, and therefore, how do rewards play a lot in that? If you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. It's very, very exciting to be here on this panel. Thanks, Ashish. Thanks for that introduction. I think it's like you said, it's a very interesting space. Recognition has always been a very um, very insightful space to really think about, as HR professionals, we're all really thinking about what works. We all want to make sure that our good performers, our great performers, get recognition for the work that they do. And the way that it has evolved over a period of time is quite interesting. So I think to me, actually, what was very interesting was the two words that you have, which is the personalization and the recognition coming together, and how technology is becoming an enabler of that. So I think the whole piece was very, very exciting to know and learn more about today.
Okay, thank you so much. I love the fact that recognition is on top of your agenda as well, because I think that's
Absolutely.
going to be on the agenda for the next 3 months in every organization. Okay, let's turn to Vinisha. Vinisha, your opening remarks on the topic.
So hi everyone, and welcome here. And let's. I'm looking for an exciting session. See, the first thing which came to my mind is, and I'm sure everyone will agree that every decade we have different topics, and one thing which has been important for a couple of decades, which is like a low hanging fruit to increase the happiness quotient, the HQ. So we've moved from an IQ to an HQ. So a low hanging fruit is, of course, is always to have employees appreciated, an unhappy employee is always an unhappy customer. It's always, end of the day, it's a win-win situation. Statistically, it's proven that tailored recognition programs are always increasing 12x times any engagement for any organization. My 2 cents to this entire piece that we are going to talk about, that SHRM and Advantage Club have curated, is I'm looking forward to understand how can we have a very objective and a technology driven recognition. And does it feel that it's leadership aligned? Does it has to come from top to bottom? And the most important piece that I'm looking here to share with everyone is, how do we measure the ROI? I think at the end of the day, organizations want to look forward with the numbers of top line, bottom line. So how do we measure the ROI? So that's what I'm looking forward, Ashish.
Thank you so much, Vinisha. I love the fact that you talked about does it align with the leadership, because that's another critical aspect when you talk about culture, because I think most of us do believe that culture is actually driven from the top, and therefore the ROI of rewards and recognition, that's going to be another interesting topic, but thank you so much. You're actually taking it to the pointers that we would want to talk about. Let me turn to Alok. Alok, what are your initial thoughts, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, all. Thanks, Ashish, for the great introduction. And I'm really excited to be a part of this discussion today and share and learn both during this discussion. Uh, the first thing which came up to my mind was a quote from Aristotle. He speaks about that the awards come to those who put their good qualities into action. So I think that we can relate to what is the end goal in mind when we are designing anything. And once we implement and design something, it should be sustainable, then scalable, and lastly, as we say, it should be consistent. But in DXE way, we say it should be predictable. So I think all the three, if come together and properly designed, using technology as an, I would say, it's the support enabler, and AI, which we will be talking about a lot more today, which is the enhancer. So I'm sure the discussion would be really interesting and to learn as well.
Thank you, Alok. As expected, DXC Technology will talk about technology in all aspects of life. So thank you so much. Okay, I love the fact that what you said, share and learn. So I believe all of us here are here to share and learn. So I'm encouraging all my participants right now, people who have logged in, please share your questions and your insights and your point of views on the chat as well. So we are actually, as Alok said, and I believe, and my entire panel believes the same, that we are here to learn and share as well. Okay, now let me turn to Smiti. And Smiti, I would expect you to actually give us a little bit longer insights, because you tend to have worked a lot and your organization has developed a lot of solutions around, the topic. I'm equally aware of the kind of insights and, research that Advantage, has created around the topic. Not only give us your initial thoughts about the topic, but if you could also help us uh, identify some of the new things or contemporary practices that have been happening around rewards, that would be genuinely a big beneficiary thing to all our people and to each one of us.
Right. Thanks, Ashish, for the introduction. And I'm super excited to kick off this session as well. And a big thank you to all the speakers for joining us today. And it's such a pleasure to see such a large audience. I think there's 75 plus people attending, and the numbers are increasing while I'm speaking. So excited to see so many people join us. From the topic perspective, I think the first thing I want to talk about, and which you also mentioned, Ashish, is the employee happiness, right? And there have been studies by Gallup and others which prove that happier employees are 20% more productive. So while, of course, there is this whole debate on recognition driving culture, recognition making employees, maybe drive better retention, and all of that is stuff we should be able to measure, and we're going to talk about that in the later stages of the session today. The most important piece which comes out is that if a program is able to directly drive or impact productivity in an organization, that itself proves the fact that it is a really important piece and we have to focus on that. So, which is why employee happiness is something which kind of, I really like the fact that the topic was around that because it directly impacts your productivity. Today's topic is primarily to talk about personalized rewards and how we can build a culture of appreciation to drive better employee happiness and retention. From an Advantage Club's perspective, I think rewards and recognition is not something which is new today. This is something which is being practiced since ages, even before technology adoption was evident, where companies used to have trophies or run in-house programs in their offices face to face. And I think with the pandemic, it completely changed because we started having a hybrid workforce, a remote workforce, which became more prevalent. And that is where adoption of technology started properly. While there were companies using technology to run recognition earlier, it was not really properly adopted, which really started having a proper adoption post-COVID. And hence, technology also needed to upgrade itself. So all platforms needed to upgrade themselves at that particular stage to have a better diverse workforce, a more global workforce, and different regions work differently. What works in India might not work in the Philippines, might not work in the US. So it became the need of the hour for technology platforms also to upgrade themselves and be able to serve this wide variety of audiences. So while audiences also became more wider, I think another thing which changed over the past decade is the overall type of workforce which companies are managing today. I think the age gap has become so wide. You see everyone, including millennials, Gen Z, and now even Gen Alpha, which is going to be the future, along with Gen Beta, I think, which has started from this year, literally. And every generation comes with their own set of expectations in terms of what they want. And most of these younger generations, they really care about recognition. While salary is, of course, an important factor for them, but we've also started seeing patterns where the newer generations don't care that much about salary as long as they are feeling more recognized in their organization. The small disparity in terms of, say, getting an increment here or there does not make a very major impact in their decision making of leaving the company as well, which I think older generations, it was a very important factor, and recognition was probably not that important as compared to pay. I think another thing which has changed, and again, there have been reports clearly stating this, that of late, the pay disparity in most organizations have also kind of reduced a lot. So earlier, there used to be a lot of difference between what, say, an IT firm versus a finance firm versus a BPO or versus a technology firm would pay. That pay disparity has also reduced a lot, which is why most companies have become competitive in terms of their packages, and hence recognition also becomes an additional factor for retention. From a reward standpoint, and we're going to talk more about it, and I'm sure would love to hear from the speakers here as well. While there are culture-led rewards, which is the most common, which most organizations run today, which is around, say, moments that matter, or you have spot awards or any specific awards where people are following company cultural values and hence they are getting rewarded. What has also come nowadays in the foreground is performance-led awards, which has also become very popular of late, where culture-led awards have been there since a while, but different departments and different business units have started running their own performance-led rewards as well. Say, for example, there's a separate program running for the sales team, a separate program for the technology team on completing their, say, Jira tasks or something like that, a separate program running for customer care teams. So performance-led rewards has also become as a very important reward mechanism. And what we've also seen change in the recognition industry over the years is the addition of rewards beyond recognition. So, rewards beyond recognition in the sense, rewards which are given to everybody irrespective of who they are or what band level they are in. So it could be, say, well-being related rewards, and well-being has become like a very important factor post-COVID as well. It could be something related to travel, or flexi benefits in general have become very common in the past half a decade or 4 or 5 years or so. And that's also something which we've seen change in the recognition space over time. So yeah, I mean, just trying to shorten
No,
my
absolutely. No, no,
context and
absolutely.
yeah,
No, no,
cover
absolutely. And
whatever
thank
I.
you. No, absolutely. Thank you so much for those insights. Particularly, and I'm sure like all the people who are logged in, you could put on the chat what you like and what, resonates with you. But I can tell you two things that really the pointer that you made around rewards beyond recognition. So at SHRM, we do a lot of research, and we have found out that amongst the younger generations, and there are so many kind of taglines around them, millennials and internet generation, and all of that. One of the key things for them to these days, and I'm sure that each of the speakers from amazing organizations who recruit a lot. One of the key factors these days, according to our own research, is that younger generations tend to be looking at the benefits in terms of rewards and recognitions that organizations offer, and which is gaining a higher ground for them to choose an organization now, which was like very which didn't exist when probably 20-25 years when I started to kind of get we you never looked at what do they offer, you only looked at what are you getting on the now, there's this another example that you talked about to say that how do you differentiate rewards and from geographies and we have this amazing case study, and we were working as SHRM advisory a couple of years back with an organization where they actually went out and rewarded one of their R&D teams with the generic awards that they have in the organization, and that led to a massive attrition. And when they actually went deep into it, people said that, see, you can't compare me to a shop floor person. Therefore, if you're giving me the same rewards, and it was an eye opener for us as well to say that how generations and how people have changed. So therefore, that whole concept of personalization, is so important. So let me turn to say probably to Vinisha first and say, Vinisha, why do you think is this personalization important while designing these award programs, and how are organizations kind of doing this personalization thing? And of course, then I'm going to turn to Smiti to say what all do you see as a trend or what all is available. But probably you could tell us, start off with to say, do you see that happening in Hexaware and all the other organizations that you would be aware of? Personalization being becoming very critical?
Yes. So, Ashish, I will say that yes, personalization is very important. It's a key element, and now it's a proven thing. It's more effective, makes it more meaningful. And why do we have to personalize it? Is because you'll have it gives an opportunity to acknowledge the employees, respect the unique needs and their preferences. I think it also makes them feel valued, cherished. And Hexaware, we do that. When we say we create smiles through great people and technology, that's basically what we have in our work DNA. My personal takeaway, which has helped me till date when I'm kind of creating my programs, are the three E's that I keep in mind. The first is emphasis. To be able to emphasize how you want to personalize it, you have to know your audience. And like Smiti mentioned, and all of us knows, it's multi-generational. So, and every generation, whether I'm from the millennial and I've got an alpha, I have a Gen Z to take care at my home, they really need, their needs are very different. So emphasizes to know about your audience. Now, I have a teenager son, and when he does a good to a paper, and I took him to a restaurant. I'll share you an example which made me come across this. I took him to the restaurant to just share that accomplishment of his, and he loves burgers like any other Gen Z, So he and I took him there, but his mood point was, what, mom, I want to have some Italian cuisine. Now, it didn't help me, See, my intent was to create something really nice, but then it didn't help me because I didn't understand his need. So
You ended up actually on the other side.
right. So it has to be, everyone has a superpower. If you're able to understand that, emphasize, it helps. The second E is empower. See, we have to understand the fact that one thing fits all kind of thing, it doesn't happen. So if we can empower them by giving them to choose a variety of options, let them choose, gift cards, let them choose, like you just mentioned, R&D was not happy that, they were kind of, compared to this and given something same. So let them choose from the reward options, whether they want any professional developments, whether they want any kind of extra time offs. I don't know. Let them choose. And the third and the last E, which helps me when I'm creating my programs, is enable them. We have to create an ecosystem which can be sustainable and it can be driven by people. You just can't have people managers and leaders driving it. It has to be enabled by people. And then you can see the magic flow, right? So if as an organization, I attune myself to the dynamics and the preferences which keep changing, I think we will be able to have an engaged workforce and a satisfied workforce.
Thank you so much. Vinisha, on that example, so I was working with this organization last year where the CEO takes out everybody for a lunch if you do well, if you perform well. The problem statement from HR was that 60% of the people don't end up taking that lunch with the CEO. So we kind of actually got into a conversation with some of those people who were invited, didn't end up. So, and did lunch, like a lunch with your family and all of that stuff. And it's quite a big organization. It's a respectable CEO. So as one of the people, and without naming the organization, that person, fairly young, he said, I get paid to go through this. Why should my family go through this? Absolutely a great example of reward not thought through. So
Yeah.
I love what you said, the burger example. So and I would encourage my audience to say share more such examples. But before I go to Smiti now, because you talk like there are so many people within the organization. How do we customize it? And I love the fact that you talked about that it's eventually the people managers who should bring it up to life. But here is my thing, and let me call it out very clearly, and let's go to Anupama because they have a huge workforce. Anupama, how? Because I'm sure within your organization as well, not everybody is young and wants like very bright shiny awards. There would be people like me who still are old timers who want the give me like a check or pat on the back or something. How do you really kind of break the code? How do you really get to know who wants what? And I'm sure you do whatever. You still can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Ashish. We have a very large workforce, thousands of people, and what that means is diversity in every possible way imaginable, whether it's gender, whether it's cultural, whether it's age, everything is thrown in there. And I think there's really three things that we've seen. One is what people define as recognition has really evolved over a period of time. Traditionally, I remember a decade ago, recognition would be about calling people in front of a room and giving them some sort of white goods, and that would be like I got a microwave today or I got a dinner set today. That evolved to giving people vouchers, because that became the new thing. And then we were fortunately some of the early adopters working with Smiti and her team to move to a technology platform where we started giving people reward points that people could do. But even that is expanded so significantly. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that we try and do is listen to people a lot, like what ticks with you, what makes it work for you. And some of the very interesting examples, I've been talking to a couple of people. I asked one, like, if we had to recognize you, what would be a good way to do it? So one of them said that, would you mind contributing money to a charity of my choice, because I know that, we're an
Wow.
organization that's focused on community service, and I feel really passionately about this organization and this NGO. Would you contribute? And I was talking to, somebody on my team the other day, and I was asking them that, you've been doing a really good job, and I really would like to recognize you. We do give reward points. So I asked her, like, what would you like? And I was surprised at the answer. She said, if you really want to recognize me, I know you have a position in the team, which is a very critical role. Would you consider me for the position? That is recognition. Being able to be trusted with responsibility is recognition, as an example. So I think what people mean of recognition is significant, is changing quite dramatically. And I think one of the very important things to do is to continue to talk to people and really ask, what does it mean to you? The second trend that we're seeing is that instant gratification, right? I think we hear that term all the time, that it's a generation of instant gratification. Ki abhi chahiye, otherwise it's not, it loses its meaning. So that's, I think, the other thing that we're trying to work on, that if somebody's done a good job now, how do we recognize them now and not at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year? By which time it may not mean, even if it means, stand up, let's clap for you, let's acknowledge what you did in front of a few people, that becomes very, very important. And, the third trend that we're seeing is that there is more of a delinkage, I feel, between rewards and recognition. They're not interchangeable anymore. And I'll give you another example. One of the areas that we focus quite heavily on is ESG. And as part of our goals last year, we said that we would plant, a couple of thousand trees. We took a commitment that we would plant over 100,000 trees. And we said that, look, we feel passionately about it as an organization. We will do it, but we will put it on a slide, we'll share it with people, and possibly people will forget about it. How do we tie it in a more meaningful way that people can become a part of it? How do we take the organization goals and make it a part of our entire engagement and reward strategy? So we made a small change. We said, look, we are going to plant more trees than the number of people that we have. So instead of just going out and planting them, we decided for every person's birthday, we would plant a tree and send them a certificate. So this is
Oh,
an
wow.
e-certificate that goes to them to say, hey, Ashish, happy birthday. On your behalf, I planted a tree for you. Here's a certificate that you can keep. And should you choose to contribute and do more, here's a link where you can go and plant trees. And I was surprised, the number of people that wrote back to us that were so touched by that gesture. We didn't give them a monetary reward, but it was a
Yeah.
recognition that you matter. We had
Yeah.
people sharing it on Insta, people sharing it on Facebook. So I think that the linkage between reward and recognition is more clear now. People see recognition as something which doesn't have to be monetary, but it has to be personalized to say it's about me, and it is acknowledging me as an individual.
Really insightful. And I love that last example. Honestly, like I almost felt like goosebumps when you said that. I know that you were just giving it as an example, but I can tell you my birthday is on 13 June. So if you want to plant a tree
One
on
for
my
you.
birthday, I would not mind it and contribute to it. But you brought in an important aspect. So I'm going to go to Smiti, and Smiti, I'm going to also couple a question that Satya asked us on the chat. So he works for an apparel organization. Now here is the key. See, how do I know what Anupama said? See, how do I know as a HR professional or a rewards professional? See, how do I know what my people want? Is there a way? See, what Anupama said will require massive conversations, will require, I don't know, maybe surveys, I don't know, a voice of the employee, or, how do I really get a handle on what do my employees, want? Because I can trust me, still believe that half of the population who is logged in will still want a birthday cake on their
Yeah,
birthday or a monetary gift rather than a, tree.
correct.
But how do we really get that correct?
Yeah, so I'll start with an example, which is a personal example, and then I'll tell you what we do typically in terms of solving this problem. So I'm a
I'm so
very
sorry.
hard.
I'm I'm so sorry. I also wanted to add to what Satya asked. So he's saying, how do I define it for my supply chain? And they work
Oh,
in the apparel. So very specific. Yeah, if you could
yeah,
answer
very
that
specific
one as well.
question. Very
Yeah, yeah,
specific answer that.
yeah.
So first, I'll talk about the first part of your question. So I'm a very ardent Swiggy user. My entire home grocery runs on Swiggy. We also get some offers, so it helps in saving more. But I just love that experience because I'm always traveling, so I can just order groceries anywhere I am. So typically, I am probably one of their star users, where I literally spend my entire home grocery just on Swiggy. So they were running this feedback program, and somebody from Swiggy called me and they said, we are running a feedback call, and we want to know that what are the things you don't find on our app which you want to buy, and then instead of using our app, you go to, say, our competitor to buy it from. And I use Swiggy daily, at least twice a day, because I order morning, evening. At that spur of the moment, I couldn't recall more than 2 items. And there have been so many products which are missing on Swiggy, which I encounter on a daily basis. But when somebody asks you that question point blank, you will not remember it. It's a human tendency. In the middle of 20,000 things, somebody comes and asks you that random question, and you can't just respond with a bucket list of things. So I told her, and it's weird, I just told her that I know it wouldn't have made any difference. I said, why don't you just mine my search history? Just look at the stuff I have been ordering. Look at the stuff where I drop off from your app, right? So I'm searching for something, it's not available. So just mine my search history. You will find what are the things I search for, and you don't have them. And she was kind of taken aback, but she said, yeah, that's a good idea. I said, I think that's a better idea. I don't know if your feedback will make a difference, but that makes more sense. So that is one mechanism, using technology to identify what your people really want. One, understanding what they are really searching for. And we started doing this very early in our journey, where people would search for IRCTC tickets. And I'd be like, okay, people are looking for train tickets, which is a very off use case. So then we also built something called as an I Want program. So now, while earlier search history mining used to be like our go-to mechanism to build our marketplace, and we got a lot of partners through that. But the I Want program became very popular, where we just told users that, okay, if you don't find something you want, you enter what you need, and our alliances team will then try to bring it together. So while surveys is one mechanism to do it, surveys is a very push-based mechanism. Taking data of users while they are actively looking for something is a pull-based mechanism. So I think that can be a better mechanism to identify what people really want. That's the first part of your question.
No, that's very insightful. Yeah.
Yeah. And second part of your question, primarily around, I think Satya's question. The first and foremost piece of creating a performance-led award is identifying what is it that you want to achieve as a result. So if you're in retail, supply chain, how can you link rewards with their KPIs or their KRAs becomes the first step in creating that policy. For example, if I think of retail, it could be efficiency in terms of production, or it could be cost effectiveness, or any sort of ROI increase you want to do in your company. So the first step is to create those rule engines, which I think most organizations have in terms of their performance metrics, as to what rules need to be created basis which people get certain rewards. So there could be different targets or different KPIs merged together, creating it's a complex structure. Typically from a KPI management perspective, people have to do 20 things to get things right. So you digitize all those pieces on the platform, or you can also do it on Excel sheets. That's also an option. But linking real results with rewards becomes a good starting point. And there needs to be a visibility in terms of the users or the employees or whoever you want to run this structure for, to understand where they are in terms of achieving that number. What will they get once they achieve that number, and how do they stand compared to their peers to drive healthy competition through leaderboards, etc., which can help drive this better. And once, I think the biggest problem in the industry today is, especially for performance-based rewards, is people don't even know where they are right now and what they need to do to achieve those numbers. If everything can be clearly defined in a dashboard or an interface for them, that becomes a good starting point to make them complete those numbers as well. Like, a lot of you have probably taken a lot of interviews of a lot of people, and the most common struggle is when at least for me, when I ask somebody, what are your targets and how are your maybe any sort of incentives or bonuses linked to those targets, it's all voodoo. People don't know why they are getting what they're getting, what's the backward math around it. So really simplifying it for the end user to ensure that they know where they are, what they need to achieve, and what will they get when they achieve it, plus where they stand in front of their peers, helps in driving those performances faster.
Wow. I'm just going to kind of reword it for all our HR folks. I think, what one mistake that we make as rewards professionals, and I can, ask my speakers to add on, but हमें लगता है ना reward दे दिया and that's it, over. That's the end of the whole story. I think what you said is to do analytics around it, dashboarding around it, communication around it, managing that whole ecosystem around is where the rubber meets the road, and that's where people will really kind of get hooked into it and make and see value or sense out of it. Otherwise, it's just a transactional thing of we giving away a goodie or a monetary or something or a pat on the back. Okay, so which automatically means that there has to be a lot of technology driven. So it's not anymore, so technology in this space is not just like a good thing to do, but it is a must have to do. So let me turn to Alok, because he represents an organ, represents rewards and also an technology organization. So Alok, help us understand, how can organizations leverage technology to enhance their recognition programs, or what could be some of the best practices to ensure that these programs are truly impactful and engaging?
Yeah. Thanks, Ashish. I think just to take the conversation forward as well. Uh, First, foremost, what's most important is the strategy, the design, and the framework. I think that is very important. Sometimes we get lured and we tend to adopt certain, I would say, lift and shift kind of programs from other organizations, which may or may not work. So, first, understanding the organization's ecosystem is important. What would work, what would not work? I think technology is a great, I would say, enhancer in this whole piece. If you see now technology, what technology has done, it has truly brought in the right virtue of globalization in an organization as well, right? It has made everybody available on single platform within an organization, irrespective of the location an individual may be sitting in. Right? A DXC itself is a good representation of a smart work culture where most of our work happens virtually. And henceforth, we utilize technology to the best in terms of to meet and greet one another, ensure we are giving a predictable experience to all our employees as well. And technology also helps us in personalizing this reward and recognition space as well. Now, the whole attribute which we want to promote through reward and recognition is sense of belongingness, feeling valued, and then feeling motivated. And the moment you take the help of the technology to make the rewards more personalized, I think Vinisha and Anupama have already spoken about a lot of examples of how we can personalize the rewards. But what it does eventually, the personalization, is primarily it gives that sense of pride in an individual. And when he or she takes pride to showcase the world that this is a reward I have got because of any particular action or a good work which I have contributed, that takes your engageometer to a very different level altogether. And then technology helps you in measuring all your matrices as well and building, I would say, maybe I'll hold on to the guns to the next part of the discussion when we will intervene into or we will dwell into how AI is changing the whole perspective altogether once we are using technology around.
Wow. I was just listening to you, and I'm sure a couple of questions that come to my mind is typically that, see, we as HR or we as any other we see, while it's great to say technology, but we are all equally a little bit what should I say, worried about it. Ki kaise baithega ye? Does it tap to my existing system? Will it upset my existing system? So probably, Alok, if you could help us also kind of give us some insights around those. I would also want Anupama and Vinisha, if you could also add to that. What do you keep in mind when you're looking at those, when you're looking at those elements of bringing in technology? For example, Anupama, you've already used Advantage Club, and I'm also sure that you also had a proper HR technology metrics within the organization. So how do you marry the two? What all does happen at that point of time?
So I think technology for us, particularly given our scale and size, has really been a huge enabler in more than one ways. One is, because we have such a diverse workforce and a large workforce, being able to provide the choice has been a very big prerogative for us. And technology helps us do that by having, by being on the platform, we're able to provide reward points that people can really redeem for everything. You could go to a restaurant, you could take a vacation, you could choose a hobby, you can donate to charity, and we have the ability to continue to expand that as we get the feedback. I think just getting the feedback itself, technology is a huge enabler when we have to listen to our people, so because we can do that on a continuous basis. The other thing that does is, I was talking about recognition. If we were to probably a decade ago think about running a recognition, it would be about, first let's design the recognition, let's go ahead and get some papers printed, then let's go distribute thank you cards to people, and then they will write it. And technology today enables us to do that in a matter of minutes. If I need to do it on a program, we'll set up a gratitude week. We've got badges that you can just go into and go into the platform. We do that on our HRMS platform. You could do it on Workday, you can do it on our rewards platform, but you can do it instantly. And it just really has made things really, really quick for us. And there is this, it's enabled a cycle of continuous improvement. So you listen, you make changes to your program, expand, change, introduce new programs, then you sort of go back and look at the utilization, because there's data now that technology enables. We can, and we do that, we regularly sit down and say, hey, we have some budgets that are quarterly, so we regularly sit down and say, hey, which is the account leader who's waiting until the last week of the quarter to say, my reward points are going to lapse, let's now distribute them, versus which leader is doing a really good job of making sure that they are using it regularly, which means that they're truly focused on recognition. So everything from listening to planning to checking, effectiveness, to then being able to be in a very good continuous improvement cycle, for us technology has really, really enabled that. And it's fantastic to be able to have technology versus what we probably could do like a decade ago.
Vinisha, any pointers that you have?
Yeah. See, I will. What I want to share is, Ashish, technology has helped me to, they take care of the streamlining and amplifying the recognition programs. That's what technology is taking care of that. So it has helped me to focus on different things. It has helped me to focus on the how part, right? Because today, like we've all saying, it's all about creating moments. So I don't have to now focus that, how do I reach people? How do I get feedback? Because technology is doing all that to me. It is helping me to ensure that, how do I create that special moment where we celebrate their accomplishments? How do I craft a program which is continuously changing as per dynamics? And second, to me, technology gave me a breather to focus on the purpose. Now, what is important is that in today's time, I feel employees need a purpose, right? Like, for example, I'll tell you, we have a wonderful program which we call as Gift of Time. Now, what Gift of Time means that, we give you that one day is yours. And you decide what you want to do. You want to spend the time with your family, you want to go for a spa, you want to go for a haircut, you want to just go for playing, it's like a dog's day out, whatever you want to do. Now, that was enabled only because I had technology. If I would have not have that, imagine with the kind of organizations that spread we have, we wouldn't have been able to have that as a global initiative. So I think this is where technology helps us.
Great. Here's a question that Bhargavi, on the chat asked us, and I'm opening it up to all of you. Any one of you can answer. Bhargavi asked that, as a HR professional, how can I contribute to increase the culture of appreciation? And an open question to all three of you.
Okay, it's a very, very important question, Bhargavi. Thanks for asking that. I think first, before like we need to understand what the culture is in terms of, in simple terms, culture is something how I relate to the peers within my organization, with my organization and my work, and also how do I relate to the people outside into the world as well. So I think the moment we understand that gist, it is all about, it is me. So the biggest contribution you can do as an HR professional is walk the talk, ensure you are recognizing if you are a manager to your team members, and if you are a team member, then to your peers as well, and ensure that there is an instant recognition given for any good work done. So I think that would be my 2 cents out there.
Mhm. Anybody else who would want to answer Bhargavi? Because I've got another great one coming from Ankita.
Okay.
Okay, let's pick up the Ankita's question. Anupama, would you want to take this? So, and I'm sure you see this a lot in your sector. Ankita is asking, how does recognition act as a driver where overall team motivation is low?
Yeah, very good question. I think, quite honestly, recognition is a very helpful tool, because it's a reinforcement, right? One, it is something. I think it creates positivity, particularly if the team environment is low. And I think for our industry, it's slightly easier because we have metrics that can be measured very objectively, and so putting a good recognition program around it becomes very, very easy. But I think sometimes to stop and take stock of what is going well. And if a team is demotivated, let's say a lot of things are not going well, even if one thing goes well, you celebrate, and that sort of energizes the team. And then, that motivates them to take one more step. One more thing goes well, again, you recognize it, energizes the team. So I think it's sort of a positive reinforcement circle, and we've definitely seen it improve performance. More, people coming together, and little by little, some of it takes a little bit more time than normal, but 100% recognition is a very, very useful tool to make sure that people are energized and performance starts going upwards where it's not so at the moment.
Okay. One of the key things that I'm very excited about these days, with this advent of AI and generative AI everywhere being talked about now, how can personalized rewards and, be away from it? So I'm going to turn to Smiti and Alok. So, in any order, if any one of you wants to go first, but both of you help us understand how can AI would driven insights. And, I'm bringing in Smiti because you talked the pull of understanding what employees need. And this also involves in areas like data privacy in organizations, what data can be asked, not asked. But how can AI-driven insights help organizations drive better efficiency and utilization of what all is being offered as, the rewards?
Thanks, Ashish. That's an interesting one. Smiti, I know you are the expert. You will talk more about it. But just for food for thought, I think some of the key things which AI definitely does in today's world is helps you unlock the power of data, right? Because technology generates a lot of data, but I would say AI is the last mile connectivity which helps you in unlocking the power of that data. It gives you certain indicators which you can actually you should keep in mind. It may help your metrics tracking. Uh, I would say in a particular manner. It gives you those in a regular and a periodic manner. It can throw you some of the insights. Then the biggest thing which you can do with AI is you can integrate multiple data coming from each of the sources, and that you can build up correlations and see what is impacting the most and course correct what is not working for you. So those would be some of the key pointers, I would say, and I'll open it up to Smiti to add to on this one.
Thanks, Alok. And yeah, I mean, absolutely agree. And I think I'm going to start with my first point as your last point, which is around analysis of data. So I think the first and foremost thing which AI helps in doing is smarter reporting. So not just your regular dashboards and maybe raw data, which you have to make sense out of. Using AI, you can actually create much smarter inferences of data. And to some extent, eventually, the way I see the future of AI reporting is if you can create a structure in which you identify through the different activities which a user has made as to whether they are in the red zone or they are in the yellow zone or whether they're going to attrite. If that level of intelligence can be built in our reporting, that I think becomes like your Hail Mary, right, to drive the perfect reporting for any organization. Other things you could do with AI is one, of course, around personalization. And we've been dabbling in AI personalization even before AI was a thing. So I remember back in 2016 when we launched, we were like, okay, how can we ensure that people are nudged at the right time when say they are on the road and they have some benefits around them they can redeem on, and they won't remember that okay they're near a Domino's, but they can redeem their points on a Domino's, for example. So back then we had built-in nudging on the app, and initially it was a challenge because 2016 was the time when people did not even have like free data. Data used to be charged. So mostly people used to turn off their data when they were on the road and then turn on their data later. But so initially we experimented with some special Bluetooth devices to be kept in locations, and that was a horrible experience. It didn't work. But when data became more common and people started using data on their mobile apps on a regular basis, that's when we implemented smart notifications where people, wherever they are, say you are in a mall, the app will ping you and will tell you that these are the benefits around you. So you don't miss out. If you're sitting in a restaurant and you don't know that you can use your reward points here, the app will tell you that you can use your reward points here. Other things which we did around personalization was like not having a static marketplace. So basis people's preferences, the marketplace keeps changing. So your popular marketplace options will start coming on the top. We created, just like Amazon has like a personalized for you, a recommended for you category, which would give personalized recommendations to people to use their benefits. And this was all keeping in mind flexibility for people and personalizing the choices for them so that they can use it better. So yeah, I mean, personalization becomes a very, very major factor when you're using AI. And generative AI today has become another great option for enhancing user experience in recognition. So through Gen AI, you could do assisted citations, for example. Now, say you have to award 100 people. Now, writing 100 citations is very painful, and writing the same citation for everybody is just ineffective. So using Gen AI, you can create multiple types of messages, which eventually mean the same thing, but every message means differently. It also helps managers who are not very efficient with their words. Like I'm one of those people. If I have to tell somebody you did a great job, I'll just say you did a great job. But I am not a person who'll be able to write, you have an amazing expertise in XYZ, and I really commend you for your work, which is much more professional, honestly. So for me, I found Gen AI to be very helpful to kind of put my thoughts to mind while writing citations. And lastly, even comms, right? So creating new badges, the same thing, you go to your design team, you keep bothering them, they take 5 days to create a new badge. So Gen AI can just create badges for you on the go. So these are a few things we have implemented in the tool to make life much easier for recognition.
Oh, thank you so much. So let me turn to Vinisha. Vinisha, I have two questions, and I'm kind of combining them. Uh, Now, like everybody's asking questions. Sharayu is
I
asking,
love that.
see, what are some impactful non-monetary awards that can be introduced to enhance employee recognition? And Murli had a similar question to say, okay, how do you balance between monetary and non-monetary? Because I think, see, at the end of the day, and I know that Smiti talked about ROI at the beginning to say that hi, yaar, not everything can be monetary, right? So help us answer Murli and Sharayu, and then we and Murli's question.
Sure, sure. So, see, monetary, non-monetary is always the trickiest part, right? Because again, to some people, at some time, monetary is important. For that same person, non-monetary becomes important at a different time. So there are these sentiments that goes along. But I would say some of the non-monetary, which has really worked well in our organization. I've already given an example of gift of time. There is something that, just topping up to what Anupama said, we have something called as gift of presence, and that's where typically is, you kind of collaborate with any of the CSR arm of Hexaware, and then and you choose, there's already a palanthra of things, and you one chooses that as per them. Now what helps, that gives you very fulfilling moments. Now these are non-monetary, and sometimes including your family becomes again equally important. I mean, one of the practice, and I know many people have that, is when your leadership teams writes these personalized letters and it goes to the family members. Of course it does create a whole environment of family. So those could be some effective way. Another way of having non-monetary is, what, which is very recent in recent times is very, becoming a very important thing, is focus on their well-being. Nowadays with social employees social and mental well-being, it is important if we able to create some activities. Like example, I'll tell you what we did with Smiti was, when we did a walkathon, instead of just giving them points or some gadgets and all, it was like creating a basket of some things which can be for them, for what they will want to have it as, which will help them in their health, health tonic, protein shakes,
Mm,
etc.
mm,
So it is all about curating things and crafting it as per the need, and that is where, and I'm going back to understand what is the purpose. If you understand that, then I think creating a non-monetary retain awards and retaining them is really easy and a quick thing that can be done.
Sure. Anupama, one quick question for you. And this is like an anonymous, somebody put up as an anonymous question. So they're asking, does voluntary work or pursuing a learning opportunity qualify for recognition points? I'm sure you would have faced that a lot in your organization. So does that, is there a scope for it? Does it get really appreciated? Because I've equally heard a lot of, arguments to say that, let my learning and let my career pursuing be my problem, you give me the money. So is that like what's your take on that one?
Sorry, Ashish, I don't think I got the question fully.
See, one of the anonymous questions is saying that, see, does voluntary work or pursuing a learning opportunity qualify for a recognition points? For example, I'm
Like,
working in Concentrix and say that I want to do some voluntary work, give me 5 days leave, and that's my recognition. Can
yeah,
that qualify? Because, but I've also seen the argument in against it, to say that, nah, that's really not. For example, like, some organizations where we saw that they kind of really push their people to go and sign up for a certification or for some kind of an academic
yeah,
pursuit, but doesn't
yeah,
get taken up. The most HR come back and tell me that it didn't, पहले बहुत हल्ला मचाया, बाद में कोई लिया ही नहीं. So Ankur is asking us that question. Is that something that can be pushed, or is it purely on performance only? This can also be given a reward at what Smiti said earlier. There should be
yeah,
some rewards that are given to everybody. That also is my strategic part of it to increase my capability or whatever, or
yeah,
engagement. So
yeah.
what's your take on that one? Ankur is asking the same question.
Yeah, so see, it depends on what you define as rewards. Honestly, for example, if you talk about voluntary work, the way that we've always approached it is we've never imposed it on anyone. Because we honestly believe that by the nature of itself, which is if you're doing community service, it should be voluntary. Or, if we're doing it, you will probably take like a group out and you'll ask, so have we ever given reward points for it? We have not, to be honest, and people have never asked, honestly, because we've had people that have come forward and said that they want to do it because they consider, I mean, for people that want to do it, that volunteer to do it, they consider that to be something that that they're passionate about. We've not sort of come across that. In terms of learning and development, for completing a training, do we give people reward points? We typically don't, but we will have from time to time contests. If you have a learning program that you sort of roll out, you will recognize, let's say, the certain number of people that have completed the learning program, but then also implemented it in the form of, let's say, you'll have a contest like, here's a skill that you learn, and then you execute and implement it on a project, and then you display that, and then you have a team that sort of evaluates. So that could have reward points. But to complete a training and to invest in your own learning, we don't do reward points. But to my mind, I mean, the biggest reward for investing in your own development is what you learn out of it and the career growth that you get with it. So maybe not in the form of reward points, but 100% your self development is always rewarded.
You so much. I know we're out of time, but I'm going to take one more because now there are like a lot of questions coming up. This one, Ankur, like and Ankur, I'm so sorry, I actually confused between the anonymous and your question. But the first part of your question, I think Smiti has already answered it. But the second part, which is it's a nice question, and I'm going to put it up to Alok and Anupama, both of you,
Yeah.
and it's a good one. So he's asking how infant attrition, like the people who join, like leave within 3 months or 6 months, and I'm sure both of you see that a lot in your organization.
Yeah.
How can how do you see it to be addressed when the time tenure is very small through rewards and recognitions? Smiti, that's another business line for you, probably.
Yeah. So I'm happy to share. Alok, you want to go first, and then I'm.
So Anupama, go ahead. I'll join. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is definitely an area that we have to address for a long time. And so we've done like a lot of experimentation around what we can do here. But one program really worked well for us. We realized that when you're new in the organization, and we spoke with a lot of people in general also, when you're new in the organization, you're trying to find your place, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to, know where you belong. And that tends to be the most vulnerable period, because if you don't find that support system very quickly, you will walk out. You will have somebody else who will offer you, or you're not, that emotional connect is not yet there. So we actually started something very, very simple. We started a program called a Purple Revolution, which was focused on our new hires. And it was as simple as giving them a different lanyard that wherever they walked around the floor, they could be identified that here's somebody who's just joined the organization. And then we sensitize the people around them to say, hey, you know what, if you see somebody who's wearing a purple lanyard around them, please take the time to go and say hello. Please take the time to introduce yourself. Please take the time to ask if you can offer any additional help, just to make them feel at home. And it was phenomenal, the results that we got from that, because suddenly, people had new hires, had a lot of people walking up to them. Suddenly they felt that getting assimilated into the organization was much quicker and much faster. And a lot of questions that they were afraid of walking up to people and asking suddenly became much easier, because somebody was walking up to you and offering to help you. So you could ask that question that you may otherwise have been hesitant to walk up to a stranger to ask. So that's something that worked really well for us.
And
Yeah, and just to add to Anupama, I think that was a great practice. Thanks, Anupama, for sharing. For us, we being the smart first organization, henceforth, we cannot work with the lineages around. But yeah, what we do definitely differently is make the individual feel welcomed. That's very important. And then initial 30 to 60 days, there is a well-crafted kind of an orientation program, as well as sessions with the leaders itself, so that they can ask any question. It's like an open house with them. It's and for all the new joiners, and any kind of an issue they may be facing, they can upfront talk about it, and it gets addressed. And then during the whole course of that first 3 months, there is a lot of ways of collecting feedback from them, how they are feeling, how they are adjusting. Is there something else that can be done? And that really works well for us.
great. Thank you so much, Alok. I know, see, we can go on, and I've seen a lot of questions coming up, and honestly, I personally, one of those rare webinars where you intend to, because the quality of conversations, the kind of questions that are coming up, and all the insights that, speakers, thank you so much. Each one of you is creating, I wish we could go on, but, like all good things need to come to an end. So I think, we are past the time. Thank you so much, Vinisha, Anupama, Smiti, Alok, for coming out, sharing your insights, so openly and so honestly, and, putting out, your heart out there. But I think the biggest contributor, and I would want to kind of, maybe put up a, clap for them. So all the participants who actually made this happen, and for all your questions that you still keeping on coming up, because I can see a lot of anonymous questions. I have 3 upcoming there, and a lot that I've missed up in the chat. What I've done is I've given up the LinkedIn profiles for each one of them. Feel free to put it on their messages, and probably they can answer out it there. We would want to, on behalf of SHRM and on behalf of AdvantageClub.ai, thank each one of the speakers, thank everybody who's logged into it. There's also a second webinar, in the series that's coming up on the 5th of February. The link is already on the chat. If you want to do a registration for the same, feel free to do that. Until we meet again, thank you so much to each one of you. And until we meet again, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.